Florence, 1510. An old man lies dying in a small room near the Arno River. His name is Sandro Botticelli. Once, he painted for the most powerful family in Italy, the Medici. He painted gods and goddesses, Madonnas and angels, spring gardens and golden skies. But mostly, he painted one face. A face he first saw 34 years ago. A face that belonged to a girl who died when she was 22. Her name was Simonetta. And this is not a love story. This is a story about looking. About what happens when beauty becomes currency. About what the Medici understood better than anyone. That some things are too precious to touch. So you turn them into gold instead. Chapter 1, The Arrival. When beauty entered the market. Florence, 1469. Spring came late that year. The city smelled of rain and new bread and the Arno's muddy banks. In the palazzo of the Medici, the most powerful banking family in Europe, two brothers stood in the loggia, watching the courtyard below. Lorenzo de' Medici, 20 years old, already called the Magnificent behind his back, though he pretended not to hear. Beside him, his younger brother Giuliano, 18, handsome, kind, the one everyone loved because he had not yet learned to calculate the cost of everything. They were watching a wedding procession. Not their own. Lorenzo was already engaged to a Roman girl, Clarice Orsini, a match arranged to give their merchant family the respectability of old nobility. This procession was for Marco Vespucci, a minor Florentine banker, marrying a girl from Genoa. Her name was Simonetta Cataneo. She was 16 years old. And when she crossed the courtyard, something in the air changed. Giuliano saw her first. He touched Lorenzo's arm without speaking, the way brothers do when words would break whatever spell is being woven in the moment. Lorenzo looked. And Lorenzo, who had been trained since childhood to assess value, to measure worth, to calculate return on investment. Lorenzo, for just a moment, forgot to count. Let me tell you what each brother saw. Giuliano saw hair the color of autumn wheat in sunlight, skin like fresh cream, a way of moving that seemed to belong to music even when there was no music playing. He saw grace. He saw innocence. He saw something he wanted to protect, the way a knight in old stories protects a lady who belongs to someone else. This is how Giuliano loved things, completely, hopelessly, from a distance that preserved the dream. Lorenzo saw something different. Not because he was cold, Lorenzo was never cold, but because he had learned young that beauty, like gold, has a specific gravity in the world. It tips scales. It opens doors. It changes the price of things. Lorenzo saw a girl from a good Genoese family, but not a wealthy one. Married into the Vespucci, respectable, but not powerful. She would need patronage. The kind only the Medici could provide. And he saw this. If beauty of this magnitude existed in Florence, it could be useful. Not in a cruel way. Lorenzo was many things, but rarely cruel. He simply understood that in a city without kings, where power came not from birth but from banking, where art and culture were the currency of influence, beauty could be invested in. Like shares in a mine, like a trade route to the east. Beauty, properly managed, could buy you immortality. That evening, in Lorenzo's studiolo, his private study lined with books and ledgers, the brothers talked. Giuliano, have you ever seen anything so beautiful? His voice had that quality, the quality of someone already writing a poem in his head. Lorenzo was writing something else. A different kind of poem, the kind that began with numbers and ended with monuments. Lorenzo had written once, in his commentary on his own sonnets, "Love is nothing but desire for beauty." Amor non è se non disio di bellezza. He believed this. The way a banker believes in compound interest. Beauty could be desired. And desire could be managed. Lorenzo said, "She's married, Giuliano." Giuliano said, "I know." Lorenzo said, "And you're expected to marry within the year. Father is already negotiating." Giuliano said, "I know that too." A long silence. The kind that holds everything unsaid. Lorenzo said, "You can't have her, brother." Giuliano said, "I don't want to have her. I just want to look at her." Is that so terrible? Lorenzo said, "No. No, that's not terrible at all." And then, because Lorenzo's mind worked the way it did, always finding the path between what people wanted and what could be arranged, Lorenzo said, "In fact, we could make it beautiful. We could make it art." And this is where the story truly begins. Not with love, not with passion, but with a plan. Lorenzo understood something about Florence. In a republic where the Medici were not kings, could never be kings without risking everything, power had to be performed differently. Through art, through beauty, through the creation of things so magnificent that people forgot to ask who paid for them. And here, walking through their city, was the most magnificent thing Lorenzo had ever seen. Not a building, not a sculpture. A living, breathing work of art. All they needed to do was preserve her. That night, Lorenzo sent for 3 people. Angelo Poliziano, his personal poet. Sandro Botticelli, a young painter he'd been supporting. And the tournament master. Because Giuliano wanted to look at beauty. And Lorenzo would give all of Florence, permission to stare. Here is a question to carry with you into sleep. When you love something you cannot touch, when you want something you cannot have, what do you do? The Medici had an answer. You commission it. You paint it. You write it into poems and tournaments and public spectacles. You turn desire into culture. And culture lasts forever. But there is another question. One will return to. What about the girl herself? What did she want? We don't know. She left no letters, no diary, no poems. Only her face. Painted over and over and over. Chapter 2, The Tournament. January 1475. 6 years have passed since Simonetta arrived in Florence. She is 22 years old now. Still married to Marco Vespucci. Still considered the most beautiful woman in the city. And she has become something else. A kind of shared dream. The poets write about her. Not her personality, no one seems to know that. But her face and appearance. The way sunlight loves her hair. The way her presence makes rooms feel like chapels. She moves through Florence like a work of art that someone forgot to put in a museum. Giuliano, 24 now, has never stopped looking. But he has been careful. Always careful. He speaks to her at parties with perfect courtesy. He dances with her exactly as often as propriety allows. He has never, not once, touched her in any way that could be called improper. This is the discipline of courtly love. To burn without consuming. To want without taking. But now, Lorenzo has given him permission to want publicly. A tournament. A joust, in the old style. Knights on horseback, lances, armor that catches the sun. Lorenzo is paying for everything, of course. The platform where the nobles will sit. The prizes. The armor, specially commissioned, decorated with silver and gold. The horses. The feast afterward. The Medici bank's ledgers will show 10,000 florins, tournament expenses, which is more than most families in Florence earn in a lifetime. But this is not just entertainment. This is propaganda. This is the Medici saying, look what we can afford to spend on beauty. And at the center of it all, Simonetta. 2 weeks before the tournament, Lorenzo sent for Sandro Botticelli. Botticelli was 29 years old. The son of a tanner. Trained as a goldsmith before discovering he had a gift for painting faces. Lorenzo had been supporting him for 3 years now. Small commissions. Portraits of merchants. A Madonna here and there. But this was different. Lorenzo said, I need a banner for my brother's tournament. Something that will make people remember. Botticelli asked, what should I paint? Lorenzo said, Pallas Athena, the goddess of wisdom and war. Beautiful, powerful, untouchable. Lorenzo smiled, used Simonetta Vespucci's face. And here, right here, is the moment everything changed. Because when Botticelli went to the Vespucci Palazzo to sketch Simonetta's face, when he sat across from her in the garden, with charcoal and paper, trying to capture the exact distance between her eyes, the specific curve of her mouth, something happened that Lorenzo had not calculated. The painter fell. Not in love, exactly. Or perhaps not the kind of love that wants possession. But into something deeper. Something more like devotion. The kind of devotion that says, this is what I was born to do. To look at this face. To try, knowing I will fail, to paint what I see. Years later, Lorenzo's court poet Angelo Poliziano would write about this moment. In his great poem, The Stanze per la Giostra, he described how the goddess of beauty appeared. Candida è ella, e candida la vesta, ma pur di rose e fior dipinta ed erba. Lo inanellato crin dall'aurea testa scende in la fronte umilmente superba. White is she, and white her garment, but painted with roses and flowers and grass. Her curled hair from her golden head falls on her brow, humbly proud. Humbly proud. That was Simonetta. Or perhaps That was what they needed her to be. The banner he created showed Pallas Athena, Simonetta's face framed by a helmet, holding a lance and a shield. Behind her, an olive tree. At her feet, the motto, La Samparelle, the one without equal. Giuliano carried that banner into battle like a prayer, like a confession, like a way of saying publicly what could never be said privately. I love someone I cannot have, and I will love her in plain sight, and all of Florence will witness it, and it will be acceptable, because we have called it art. January 28, 1475. The Piazza Santa Croce is packed with people. 15,000 Florentines have come to watch. The wooden stands groan under their weight. Children sit on their fathers' shoulders. Women lean from windows overlooking the square. The Medici have given them spectacle. And spectacle is power. Giuliano rides out in armor that blazes like a second sun. His horse is white. His lance is painted gold. And above him, the banner with Simonetta's face snaps in the January wind. In the stands, in a place of honor, sits Simonetta herself. Wearing a gown of pale blue silk. Her hair dressed with pearls, a gift from Lorenzo, of course. Everything is a gift from Lorenzo. Beside her sits her husband, Marco. A good man, a kind man, a man who must have known, surely he knew, that when the crowd looked at his wife, they were looking at someone else's dream. The tournament begins. Lance against lance. The crack of wood. The roar of the crowd. Giuliano defeats opponent after opponent. It was arranged, of course. Lorenzo had made sure of that. His brother would win. Had to win. Because this was not really about combat. This was about creating a story. A story that said, look at this beautiful thing we have made, this night, this lady, this perfect moment of grace. At the end of the tournament, Giuliano rode to the stands. He removed his helmet. And he knelt before Simonetta. The crowd went silent. He spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. My lady, I name you Queen of Beauty. All that I have done today, I have done in your honor. And Simonetta. What did Simonetta do? We don't know what she felt. But we know what she did. She smiled. She placed a wreath of olive branches on his head. She played her part perfectly. Because that's what beauty does in Florence. It performs. That night, Lorenzo hosted a feast. 300 guests. Musicians from Venice. Peacocks roasted in their own feathers. Wine from grapes grown on Medici land. The poets read verses praising Simonetta's beauty. Angelo Poliziano stood and recited from his new work. Era la sua persona sì gentile, e sì leggiadra in suo giovanil fiore, che parea cosa in ciel, non qui tra noi. So gentle was her form, and so graceful in her youthful bloom, that she seemed a thing of heaven, not of this earth. The room fell silent when he finished. Everyone looked at her. She lowered her eyes. Because that's what beauty does. It looks away. Pretends not to notice that it is being worshipped. But in the corner of the hall, away from the candles and the laughter, Sandro Botticelli sat alone. He was sketching her face, again, because once was not enough. 1,000 times would not be enough. He had begun something he would never finish. Or perhaps, he had begun something that would never finish him. Money can buy many things. It can buy tournaments and banners and poets. It can buy time. The time for an artist to sit and look and try to capture what cannot quite be captured. But money cannot buy the most expensive substance in the world. The blue used in the finest paintings, the blue of the Virgin Mary's robes, the blue of Mediterranean skies, comes from a stone called lapis lazuli. Mined in the mountains of Afghanistan. Carried on camels across deserts. Shipped through Constantinople to Venice. In Florence, in 1475, it costs more than gold. And Lorenzo is about to spend a fortune on blue. Because he wants to paint the sky behind a face that will never age. But first, she has to die. Chapter 3, The Dying. When Gold Cannot Buy Time. April, 1476. 15 months after the tournament. Spring in Florence smells like rain on stone, like the white flowers of the orange trees in the Medici gardens, like something ending. Simonetta coughs. At first, it's nothing. Everyone coughs in the spring. The dust from the Arno, the pollen from 1,000 gardens. But this cough doesn't stop. And one morning, she coughs into a white handkerchief and the white turns red. Consumption. That's what they call it. We call it tuberculosis. In 1476, there is no cure. Not for peasants. Not for merchants. Not even for the most beautiful woman in Florence. When Lorenzo hears the news, he sends his personal physician. The physician examines her, orders rest, prescribes tonics made of honey and herbs and gold leaf. Yes, actual gold, dissolved in liquid, because gold is pure and therefore must be healing. It doesn't work. Lorenzo sends another physician. then another. He sends to Bologna for a famous professor of medicine, to Venice for a doctor who claims to have studied in Persia. He spends, the ledgers will later show, over 2,000 florins on physicians. It's not enough. Money, for once, cannot solve this. And Lorenzo, who has solved everything with money, doesn't know what to do with his hands. Giuliano goes to visit her every day. With her husband's permission, of course. Everything is always with permission. He sits in the outer room of the Vespucci Palazzo and he waits. Sometimes Marco comes out and says, "She's sleeping." Sometimes the servant says, "She cannot receive visitors today." But Giuliano comes anyway. He brings flowers from the Medici gardens. Roses, irises, white lilies. On good days, she receives him. He sits by her bedside, always with the door open, always with her maid present, and he talks. Not about love. Never about love. He talks about the city. About the new paintings in the churches. About the festivals being planned for summer. About anything except the fact that she is dying. And Simonetta listens. She is 22 years old, and her beauty is fading. Her skin, which was like cream, is now transparent. Her hair, which gleamed like wheat, is dull. Her eyes, which held all of Florence's attention, are tired. But when Giuliano visits, she makes the effort to sit up, to arrange herself, to smile. Because even dying, she knows she is still performing, still being looked at, still being the thing everyone needs her to be. Beautiful. One day in late April, when the light through the window is gold and the air smells like the ending of things, Giuliano asks her, "Are you afraid?" She says, "No." "Are you?" And Giuliano, brave Giuliano, who fought in tournaments, who carried a lance for her honor. Giuliano cannot speak. He only nods. And she reaches out, slowly, because every movement costs her now, and she touches his hand. Just once. Just for a moment. The only time, in 6 years, they have touched without gloves, without propriety as a shield. Her hand is cold. Botticelli does not visit. He cannot. Because he is not family. Not a friend, really. Just a painter who sketched her face once for a banner. But he thinks about her constantly. In his studio on the Via Nuova, surrounded by half-finished paintings of Madonnas and saints, he finds himself drawing her face in the margins. On his account books. on the backs of letters, on pieces of scrap paper. Her face, from memory. And every time he draws it, it's different. Because memory is not like a painting. Memory shifts, changes, becomes more perfect than the original. There is a problem that every artist faces. The thing you're painting keeps changing. Light shifts. The model moves. Age adds lines. Sickness steals color. But if the model dies, she becomes fixed, eternal, 22 forever, beautiful forever. And Botticelli, though he would never say this aloud, Botticelli understands that her death will free him to paint her truly. Not as she is, but as she should be. Not the girl coughing in the Vespucci palazzo, but the dream that girl represents. Lorenzo visits the studio. She won't last a month, Lorenzo says. Botticelli says nothing. When she dies, Lorenzo continues, I want to commission something. Something that will last. A painting of her? Botticelli asks. Paintings, Lorenzo says. As many as it takes. To do what? To make sure she doesn't disappear. She stays with me forever. April 26, 1476. Monday. The morning is unseasonably cold. In the Vespucci Palazzo, Simonetta Vespucci stops breathing. She is 22 years old. She has been married for 7 years. She has lived in Florence for 7 years. And in those 7 years, she has become the most looked at woman in Italy. Lorenzo, when he hears the news, closes himself in his study. He writes in his diary words he will later cross out. Morte dell'unica bellezza e morte del mondo stesso. The death of the only beauty is the death of the world itself. They wash her body, dress her in white silk, lay her on a bed of flowers. And then, and this is important, they carry her through the streets, uncovered, so all of Florence can see her one last time. Her face, even in death, is beautiful, peaceful, untouched by the suffering of her final weeks. Death has done what life never could, made her perfect. People line the streets. Silently. Women cry. Men remove their caps. It is said that even the birds stopped singing. Lorenzo watches from a window, already planning. Already calculating what can be saved from this loss. Giuliano walks behind the bier. His face is stone. He does not cry. not where anyone can see. And somewhere in the crowd, hidden among the merchants and the mourners, Sandro Botticelli watches. He is memorizing the angle of her head on the pillow, the way her hair falls, the specific quality of stillness in her face. He is taking notes for the paintings he will spend the rest of his life creating. They bury her in the church of Ognissanti, All Saints. And Florence mourns a girl who barely spoke, who left no letters, who never asked to be famous, but who became, through the alchemy of beauty and money and art, immortal. She was 22. In the 7 years she lived in Florence, we have no record of her voice. No letters in her handwriting, no diary, no testimony from friends about what she liked to read, what made her laugh, what frightened her. We know she was beautiful. We know men wrote poems about her. We know she was painted, again and again and again. But we don't know if she was happy, if she was lonely, if she wanted any of this. The Medici preserved her face, but her voice is lost. And now the real work begins. Because the Medici didn't just want her to be remembered. They wanted her to be everywhere. Chapter 4: The Paintings. 1478, 2 years after Simonetta's death. Lorenzo sits in Botticelli's studio. The room smells of linseed oil and turpentine, of pigments ground from minerals and insects and earth. On the walls, half-finished paintings. A Madonna, a saint, a merchant's portrait. And in the corner, covered with a cloth, something else. What's under there? Lorenzo asks. Nothing commissioned, Botticelli says. Just something I'm working on. Lorenzo walks over, lifts the cloth. It's her. Simonetta. But not as she was. As she might have been in myth, standing in a garden, surrounded by flowers that don't bloom in the same season, wearing a gown that flows like water. How long have you been working on this? Since she died, Botticelli admits. I want to buy it, Lorenzo says. It's not finished. I want to buy it when it's finished, and I want to commission more. More paintings of her. More paintings of what she represents, Lorenzo corrects. Beauty, grace, the Florentine ideal. I want you to paint her as Venus, as Flora, as the Madonna herself. I want, Lorenzo says quietly, to make sure that hundreds of years from now, people will still know her face. Let's talk about blue. The blue of the sky. the blue of the sea, the blue of the Virgin Mary's robes. To create this blue, you need lapis lazuli, a stone mined in the mountains of Badakhshan, in what we now call Afghanistan. The stone is carried by miners down the mountains, loaded onto camels, taken across deserts where men die of thirst, through Persia, through Constantinople, shipped across the Mediterranean to Venice. In Venice, it's ground into powder, washed, purified. The process takes weeks. And when you're done, you have a small amount of powder worth more than its weight in gold. To paint a sky the size of Botticelli's canvas, the canvas that will become the birth of Venus, requires approximately 200 grams of ultramarine blue. In 1485, that costs about 400 florins. For comparison, a master craftsman in Florence earns about 100 florins a year. Lorenzo pays for it without blinking, because this is not just paint. This is investment. This is the Medici saying, we can afford to preserve beauty in the most expensive substance on earth. The Medici bank's account books show payments to Sandro Botticelli, 1,250 florins pigments and gold leaf, 650 florins canvas and preparation, 100 florins. Total, 2,000 florins. To paint a dead girl as the goddess of love. (1482). The first painting is complete. Primavera. Spring. A garden. Orange trees heavy with fruit. 500 species of flowers, each painted with botanical precision. And in the center, Venus. Simonetta's face. But not Simonetta. More beautiful than Simonetta. Because this is not a portrait. This is an idea. This is what Simonetta meant rather than what she was. Around her, three graces dance. Their faces, some scholars say, are also based on Simonetta. Three versions of the same woman. Flora, the goddess of flowers, scatters blossoms. Her face? Simonetta again. This is not a painting. This is an obsession. Or perhaps, this is what happens when a banker gives an artist unlimited money and a dead muse. When Lorenzo sees it, he hangs it in his private villa. Not in the main palazzo where anyone could see, but in his studiolo, his private room, where he goes to think, to write poetry, to remember. He stands before the painting and he sees what he purchased. Not Simonetta, but the idea of Florence itself. Cultured, beautiful, eternal. He has turned a girl's face into a brand. (1485), 9 years after her death. The second major painting is revealed. The Birth of Venus. A woman stands in a giant shell. Naked, but not provocatively. She is naked the way a statue is naked, beyond shame, beyond desire. Her hair, impossibly long, flows around her like water, like light. Her face, Simonetta's face, is serene, melancholy, looking at something beyond the viewer, beyond the world. The painting is over 9 feet tall. The canvas alone costs 20 florins. The gold leaf for the shell, 100 florins. The ultramarine blue for the sea, 400 florins. But the real cost? The real cost is the 3 years Botticelli spent staring at a blank canvas, trying to remember exactly how the light hit her cheekbone. Scholars will spend centuries debating what this painting means. Is it about the birth of love? The birth of beauty? The triumph of Neoplatonic philosophy? But maybe it's simpler than that. Maybe it's about a painter who looked at a girl once, for a few hours, while sketching her for a tournament banner, and who spent the next 30 years trying to get her face right. The painting hangs in Lorenzo's cousin's villa, and when people see it, when they stand before it, they don't see Simonetta Vespucci, a merchant's wife who died young. They see Venus. They see beauty itself. They see what the Medici wanted them to see. That Florence can create goddesses. Two men loved her, one with the chivalry of knights, one with the devotion of monks. Giuliano kept a miniature portrait of her, hidden in a locket he wore around his neck. He never married. When people asked why, he would smile and change the subject. Botticelli kept painting, Madonna after Madonna after Madonna. And every face, though he never admitted it, was hers. But here is what neither of them knew. They were not the only ones who would love her. 5 centuries of people would stand before those paintings and feel something shift in their chest. The Medici's investment would pay returns long after the bank collapsed. But first, both men had to die. Chapter 5, The Deaths. What Gold Cannot Save. April 26, 1478. Exactly 2 years after Simonetta died. Florence is celebrating Easter. The cathedral, the great Duomo with Brunelleschi's impossible dome, is packed with people. Mass is being said. The Medici brothers are in attendance. Lorenzo and Giuliano, standing near the altar, surrounded by friends and guards. What they don't know. What no one knows except the conspirators, is that the Pazzi family, rival bankers, have decided to end the Medici's power. The signal is the elevation of the host. The moment when the priest raises the communion wafer and everyone bows their head. That's when they strike. A man named Bernardo Bandini pulls a knife, stabs Giuliano in the back. Giuliano staggers. Another man, Francesco de Pazzi, stabs him again. And again. And again. 19 times. 19 wounds. In the confusion, Lorenzo escapes. His friends shield him. His guards rush him to the sacristy. He has a wound on his neck. Not deep. He will survive. But Giuliano? Giuliano dies on the cathedral floor, surrounded by screaming people, surrounded by blood. He is 25 years old. When they prepare Giuliano's body for burial, they find a locket around his neck. Inside, a miniature portrait, painted by Botticelli, Simonetta's face. He carried it for 2 years after her death, through diplomatic visits, through parties, through all the days of pretending his heart had not stopped in 1476. Now they lie in different churches, she in Ognissanti, he in San Lorenzo. Separated in death as they were in life. But connected by, what? Love? They barely spoke. Devotion? He never touched her except once, when she was dying. Perhaps what connected them was simpler than love. Perhaps it was just looking. The act of seeing someone so completely that you forget to touch them. Lorenzo does not forgive. Within days, the conspirators are caught. Some are hung from the windows of the Palazzo Vecchio. Some are torn apart by crowds in the street. Lorenzo himself supervises the executions. Botticelli is commissioned to paint the hanged men on the wall of the Bargello, a public warning. But at night, in his private rooms, Lorenzo grieves. He writes poems about Giuliano, about how death takes the beautiful young and leaves the calculating old. In one poem, he writes: Quant'è bella giovinezza, che si fugge tuttavia. Chi vuol esser lieto, sia, di doman non c'è certezza. How beautiful is youth, that flees away forever. Let him be joyful who wishes to be, of tomorrow there is no certainty. These are not the words of a banker. These are the words of a man who has lost his brother, who has seen beauty die, who understands, perhaps for the first time, that money cannot buy tomorrow. He commissions a tomb, magnificent, marble, with sculptures by the best artists in Florence. But no amount of marble can bring back his brother. Lorenzo himself has 12 more years. Years of diplomacy, of managing the bank, of raising his children, of protecting Florence from enemies who circle like wolves. He dies in 1492, 43 years old. From gout, probably, or poisoning, or simply exhaustion. The Medici bank begins its long collapse. The family is exiled from Florence. The paintings, those expensive paintings of a dead girl, are confiscated, scattered. Everything Lorenzo built with money and cunning and art. It all falls apart. Botticelli lives longest of all. He lives to see Lorenzo die, to see the Medici exiled, to see Florence torn apart by the preacher Savonarola, who burns paintings as sinful vanities. Botticelli, terrified, burns some of his own work, but not the paintings of her, never those. By 1510, he is 66. poor, forgotten, out of fashion. The new generation prefers Leonardo, Michelangelo, young men with new styles. Botticelli's style, delicate, linear, dreamy, seems old-fashioned now. But he still paints. In his cold studio, with hands that shake from age and palsy, he still paints. Madonnas. Always Madonnas. And every face, 34 years later, is still his. Here is what happened. The Medici wanted to own beauty. They paid fortunes. They commissioned artists. They turned a girl into a goddess. But they didn't win. Because you can't own beauty. You can only look at it, preserve it, let it break your heart, and perhaps that's what Botticelli understood that Lorenzo never could. The Medici spent gold. Botticelli spent his life. And in the end, life was the more expensive currency. The last transaction. May 17, 1510. Sandro Botticelli dies in his small house near the Arno. He leaves almost nothing. A few brushes. Some clothes. Debts to the baker and the wine merchant. But he leaves one instruction. He wants to be buried in the church of Onnisanti, All Saints, where Simonetta was buried 34 years ago. They carry his body through the streets, not uncovered like hers, not with crowds watching, just a few friends, a priest, the ordinary death of an ordinary man. They bury him in the floor of the church, not next to her, he couldn't afford that, but nearby, close enough. If you visit the church of Onnisanti today, you can see both graves. Hers is unmarked now, worn smooth by 5 centuries of feet walking over it. His has a small plaque, added much later, when people remembered who he was. They lie there still, a painter and his muse, who maybe never spoke more than a few words to each other. Who maybe never touched except for sketches, but who are connected now, forever. By stone and silence and the paintings he left behind. Here is what the Medici bought with their gold. 2 paintings hang in the Uffizi Gallery in Florence. Primavera. The Birth of Venus. Every year, over 2 million people walk past them. They stand. They stare. They take pictures. They see a face that has been dead for 550 years. And they think, though they may not say it aloud, they think, beautiful. The Medici Bank collapsed in 1494. All those ledgers, all those carefully calculated investments, gone. The palazzo was sacked. The family scattered. Everything Lorenzo built with money disappeared. But Botticelli's paintings survived. Not because they were valuable. For centuries, they weren't. But because someone, somewhere, in every generation, looked at them and thought, "These are too beautiful to destroy." And Simonetta, the girl who left no letters, who spoke no famous words, who wanted nothing but to live. Simonetta became immortal, not because she chose it, but because men with money and vision and obsession decided her face was worth preserving. And perhaps that's the real story, not about love, not about art, but about looking, about what it means to truly see another person, and what it costs, in gold, in time, in devotion, to make that seeing last forever. Close your eyes now. And when you dream, if you dream of a woman rising from the sea, or a garden in eternal spring, or a face you've never seen but somehow know, remember, someone spent a lifetime painting that dream for you, and it's a beautiful one. Good night.